Thanks again for joining us in the making of the DVD for the first ever all-Jewish baseball player lithograph, where every autograph is real.
You know, walking in here and seeing this painting in person, I have to say that it's probably one of, if not the greatest item that I've ever been able to put my signature on. It's pretty amazing. And I think just because of the greatness of it, and not just the ball players, but the people, in the stands and the great people that grace this picture is really cool to be a part of it, and I'm extremely happy to put my signature on it. It's something that I'm really proud of, no doubt about it.
This is a wonderful project, just looking at all the names and great players from Sandy Koufax to Al Rosen, on and on and on, and I'm privileged to be a part of this and frankly quite proud.
Always been proud of my heritage, and this is just another page in a never-ending book. I think it's a great idea and happy to be a part of it.
We just wanted to bring you into our home and put together a making of the project DVD. Everybody has asked us about this project, and by now if you're watching this, you know about the lithograph of all the Jewish baseball players. Everybody has asked me all these questions: how did you do this, how did you do that? And we just thought it'd be best if we did a little making of video so that people could kind of follow along. The one question that everybody has asked, all the ball players who have signed and every one of my friends and people who know about this.
Now, how did you come up with this idea?
How did you conceive of this idea?
About 4 years ago, I went to Cooperstown with my son, and we bumped into this print, which is right above my head. And this is a Negro League print that was done by Ron Lewis back in 1994. And what Ron did, he put together this print. Obviously they didn't pose, he just put it together. He flew them all into New York, and he had them sign 1,000 of these, and then eventually put them up for sale. So I bought one, fell in love with it, brought it home with me, and I realized this is really amazing. So I called the store and I bought 10 more, because I figured these would be great items to put in my charity auction that I hold every year. We put one up for auction, and it went for a really great amount of money, raised a lot of money for charity, and I thought, that was amazing. And that's when it clicked. That's when it clicked that I had to do a similar project with all Jewish baseball players. The first ball player I approached was Steve Stone, who was somewhat of a friend and an acquaintance of mine. He had come to a couple of my charity golf events that I throw. And I said, hey, I got this idea. I want to talk to you about it. So we went and we had some coffee, and I told him about the idea. And Steve Stone, he loved the idea. He said, that is an amazing idea. I love it. And if it were right here, it would be beautiful. He said, there's two problems you're going to have. The first problem is good luck with Major League Baseball licensing. And the second problem you're going to have is good luck getting Sandy Koufax to participate. It put a little damper in what we were trying to do, but I decided, we needed to go forward. So Steve said, get your act together, get some more details, and let's talk again. So I did that. I got my details together, did a little research. A few weeks later, we met again at Goldman's Deli in Arizona.
Well, knowing that we were a long way from the conception to the completion stage, and we had to have a few of the more influential Jewish leaders of baseball on our side, we're sitting there debating and strategizing as to how we were going to do that. And so in walks Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the Chicago White Sox and a very influential owner, and Bud Selig, the commissioner of baseball.
When I started this project, when I thought of it a couple of years ago, Steve Stone was one of the first guys I talked to.
Yeah, Steve's the guy that talked to me.
We were at Goldman's Deli.
Yeah, that's where Reinsdorf and I have lunch almost every day.
So I was there with him, and we were talking about this project and how to get it done, and you walked in with Reinsdorf.
Right.
Goldman's Deli happens to be one of their favorite places to eat when both of them are in Scottsdale, Arizona. I said to Greg, is one of the things that you're going to need the permission of baseball to actually do this so that you can use the uniforms and all the other things that you have to use? And he said, yes, of course, that's going to be very important. So I said, hold on for 1 second. And I went over to the table and I explained to both Jerry Reinsdorf and to Bud Selig what exactly we were planning and how we were planning to go about it and how we felt that this was going to be a historic venture something that it's probably a once in a lifetime, with all of the great players, past and present, that were obviously still with us, and a few that aren't, represented on the painting and later the poster. And so I said to Bud, how do we get baseball licensing? Can you help us through this? He said, I'll make sure that I put in a good word with the people who take care of this, and don't worry, we'll get it done. He goes, I love the idea of the project. I think it is a great one, and I wish you the best of luck. And Jerry Reinsdorf essentially said the same thing, because he realized that this is an historic venture. And so I think that was one of the things, when we look back at the whole process, where you say to yourself, okay, we happen to be in the right place at the right time, and you got a sense that perhaps this project was meant to be done.
At that point, I felt like we've got fate on our side, and it's going to go forward and it's going to happen. So once Steve and I talked and I decided we're going to put this thing together, then we had to figure out how to put it in action. There's basically about 4 things that I felt that we really needed to get this thing to actually happen. One is the licensing from the Major League Baseball. 2 is the artist. 3 is get all the players. And 4 is Sandy Koufax. And I separate him from all the players because without Sandy Koufax, this doesn't happen. Everybody would look at a print and say, these are all the Jewish players, where's Sandy Koufax? So we really hoped that Sandy would want to be a part of it. The first step, the artist, that was easy.
About 2 years ago, I got a call from a guy, and I get these fairly regular, about a project they'd like to undertake with me. And a lot of them fizzle out, and I usually go, oh, well, that was interesting, but, you know, that's just another one that went by the wayside. And this time it just kept going and going, and then he told me about the concept, which is Jewish ball players, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting one that's never been done before, that I know of anyway.
We've been asked 1,000 questions about this, and most of them are pretty standard, and my wife's been a part of it all. So I've got her here to chime in, to correct me when I'm wrong and fill in the blanks when I miss them, and also to ask the questions that everybody else has asked. So what's one of the first questions that everybody always asks?
How did you go about getting all the players?
This is what I had prepared to get the players. I had Ron Lewis, the artist, do a pencil sketch for me. I gave him the names of my 30 or so targets of players that I wanted to put in there so I could give them something to take a look at to decide whether or not they wanted to be a part of it.
I told him that I needed some photographic reference if he could get it for me. I generally don't like to just work off a particular photograph, because you see that famous photograph of somebody and say, well, you know, I know where that depiction comes from. Yeah, I usually like to kind of make my own rendition of things, so I usually pick maybe a more favorable head and another body, just to change it up a little bit, to make it more interesting and not the same thing you've always seen. So anyway, we worked through that in a couple rough drafts that are fairly comprehensive and pretty good size. And he decided that he wanted a few changes.
So this is the original pencil sketch that was done, and I planned on taking that and using it to shop the project around to the players. Once I had this, I would take it to the players, show it to them, and see what their reaction was and if they were interested. We had a strategy. I talked with Steve Stone about it, and we said, you can get everybody in the world. If you don't get Sandy Koufax, it's still not going to happen. So go get Sandy Koufax, and once you get him, every other player will follow along. Well, Steve Stone telling me to just go and get Sandy Koufax first and everyone else would follow is like telling me to swim from California to Hawaii. It's just not that easy. Making some attempts, I have some contacts in the baseball world, and some of the ball players helped me out and said, you know, I tried, and he won't return my call, he won't get back to me, or I can't get a hold of him. I switched strategies. I flipped it on its end. I said, let me get everybody else first, and then we'll get Sandy Koufax at the end, hoping that he will see that it's a legitimate, good project. So with that in mind, I obviously had Steve Stone. I had some other contact. I got, you know, Richie Scheinblum pretty quickly. Ron Blumberg loved the project. He called me twice a week to make sure that it was still going. But I still wanted that marquee name at first to get. And of course, in my mind, that was Ryan Braun. That was a big day for me. I remember I contacted his agent. I said, you know, I've got this thing I want to do. Can we talk about it? And he said, He's in Milwaukee. He's really busy. He's taking a train in. He's got to go right to Wrigley and talk to the Cubs about some deals he was making. And I said, I'll pick you up at the train station. I will drive you to Wrigley. Give me 15 minutes in the car, and I'll give you my spiel. And Nez is his name, Nez Bolello. And he said, you do that. And I picked him up. We spent about an hour at a coffee shop. And he liked the project. And he said, let me talk to Ryan, and we'll get back to you. About a week or so, he got back to me, and he said, Ryan's in. And then eventually I realized, going through these guys, that it wasn't me begging them to be in the project. It was them saying, I don't want to be left out. Larry King, he was one of the guys that I got in the crowd. He was start to finish, from the day I made the call till I had a signed contract, was 2 days. In fact, when I was on the phone with his agent, who is his father-in-law, I hear Larry King in the background yelling, Carl, I got an extra bagel, you want it? A couple other players, Al Rosen. He's not big on signing autographs. He's not big on doing these types of things. He's 88 years old. He's probably tired of all this, and he was not a big fan at first of this project. Took a little coaxing, but as of now, he's one of the biggest fans of this project. Sean Green, same thing, another big name that came on kind of early. I realized it was the players that wanted to be in the print, which brings me to Norm Sherry. Played about 5 years or so with the Dodgers, caught for Sandy Koufax. When I contacted Norm Sherry, told him about this project, his answer was, how much do I have to pay to get in? So here we are. We got 25 of the 26 players locked and loaded, signed to contracts, loving the project, ready to go. And it's all going to be for naught if we don't get Sandy Koufax. So that was time again to have that lunch with Steve Stone and say, okay, we've been doing this now for 8 months. What are we doing?
Greg and I strategized for 6 to 7 months as we talked about the evolution of the print to how we were going to get the guy that we felt was the most essential toward the validation of this. And so all of a sudden we decided over one lunch at Hub 51, I believe, that it was time to go get Sandy Koufax. So I went home and I realized that a good friend of mine, Bill Madden, who wrote the definitive work on Steinbrenner, was a good friend of Ira Berkow's, who did the movie Jews in Baseball. And so I called up Bill Madden. I said, Steve Stone. He said, hi, Steve, how you doing? I said, fine. I said, you wouldn't happen to have a contact number for Ira Berkow, would you?
He says, wait a second, you want to talk to Ira Berkow? And Steve says, yes. He says, hold on. And he hands the phone to Ira Berkow.
There's another voice on the phone. And he said, Steve. I said, is this Ira? He goes, yeah. I said, where are you? He said, I'm sitting next to Bill Madden. He said, well, what can I do for you? He said, I'd like to get in touch with Sandy Koufax. He said, well, I will talk with his agent, and if they think it's a worthwhile project, the agent will probably get to you, and eventually you'll get to talk with Sandy.
Steve's contact happened to be sitting with Ira Berkow at the moment Steve's looking for him, which was another, I call it a little stroke of fate in this project.
Sure enough, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm at the ballpark here, and I get a phone call. I look at it. It's an area code I didn't recognize, and I said, hello. He said, Steve, this was Sandy Koufax. And I said, well, it's great to meet you. It's great to hear from you. I've never even talked to you before, but I went on to tell him how much I idolized him and the fact that I wore number 32 when I won the Cy Young Award, and there were only 2 of us, and my description was always that one was great and the other was me. And so we started talking about the project, and at first he was reticent about getting involved with it for a number of different reasons. Sandy eventually, with his agent, decided that they were going to get in touch with Greg, and then it really moved very quickly after that. You know, there were a few stops and starts, but eventually Sandy came on board because he realized the historical nature of this particular project. And I explained to him that this is a once-in-a-lifetime situation, that a lot of the people who are going to be signing probably won't be with us too much longer, and that Jews had an integral part in the history of baseball.
I get a voicemail from Steve Stone. And Steve was like a kid in a candy store. He says, Greg, Steve Stone here. You're not going to believe this. I just got off the phone, not once, but twice, with Sandy Koufax. He is interested in doing the project. In fact, I saved the voicemail, and I'll play it for you all once more before I delete it.
This is Steve Stone, and it would behoove you to call me back as soon as you can. It's 3:18. I've just gotten off the phone twice with Sandy Koufax. He called me personally, which is unbelievable, and then called me back again.
And so he realized right away that he was one of the main men, or actually the main man for this. And we did this literally from lunch till about 4:30. He called me right back and he said, and Greg's going to hate to hear this, he said, look, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for you.
To listen to Steve's voice, I mean, number one, it made my day, no doubt. 2 years of working on this project, it made my day to hear he's interested. But to hear Steve's voice, I think it made Steve's year that Sandy Koufax called Steve Stone up. People ask me, did everybody go in? Did you get every player? Here comes the Kenny Holtzman story, because a lot of people say, where's Kenny Holtzman? You forgot Kenny Holtzman. Well, the truth of the matter is that Kenny was contacted, obviously. He's the winningest Jewish pitcher out there of all time. And he's somebody that we had in the pencil sketch. We had him right up front here, big picture of Kenny Holtzman up front. And after numerous emails back and forth between myself and Kenny Holtzman, he opted to not participate in the project, which I'm sorry he didn't, and we wish we had him, but he was contacted. From that, once I got all the players to agree that they definitely wanted to be in, then there was a couple changes that had to be made here and there, and I had to let the artists know. For example, Steve Stone, he told me he didn't like that mustache. We had 2 mustache issues, and he didn't like his mustache, and also Steve Yeager, who didn't have a mustache here, but on a later version, he does have a mustache. He didn't like his mustache either. So we've had some mustache removals on this print. Now, once I know all the players that are going to be involved, I need to tell Ryan Lewis, here's where we want the positioning and here's why. We want to put Sandy up front. We want to put Ryan Braun up front.
And finally, working through all that, we got everybody's okay, and it was just a matter of trying to size these characters in space. And what really made it challenging is I would get mostly photographs like headshots that were just at a particular angle, just a straight-on photograph. And I had to try to make it more of an elevated view so they'd have a full chest with their logos and their team names on there, and also a place for them to sign. So I had to kind of make that kind of an illusion.
This was kind of the second version. And you can see Ryan Braun was totally changed from where he was before, and so was Sandy. From this point, we did a few more changes, and we got to a later version. And this is the one that Ron Lewis actually did the oil painting off of. You could see in this version, Ryan Braun has changed again. There was some feeling about that last version that him tipping his cap was more that this was about him as opposed to the entire field of Jewish players. So we changed that up to this version right here. We moved some players around, put Kevin Youkilis up front. We thought it'd be great to have Ike Davis and Art Shamsky, both Mets, shaking hands. And this is basically the version that made it to oil. Take a good look at Ryan Braun, because that one actually made it to oil. But as you'll see, we did make a change on that later. When he really wants to focus on a player and really get a high quality final drawing, then you've got these drawings that he did. And you can see these were done to really show how good his work is and what is going to eventually end up in the final product.
And once I finally figured out about the size of all of them, then it was just a matter of just painting them and just giving the best likeness I could possibly do. And it was pretty challenging. It took probably about 2 months to paint this thing, and it was a pretty good sized piece. I think it was almost 4 feet by 3 feet. And we came right down to the wire where I had to finish it up. So all in all, it's been a really good experience, and I was happy to do it. And I think it's a great concept, and I hope it just it flies. I hope everybody likes it.
Now I'll take you over, give you a little tour of the actual oil painting that ultimately resulted from all this. All right, what we have here, this is the actual original Ron Lewis oil painting. My pride and joy in my home right here. And I'll give you a quick tour. Basically, when the players come in, I do give them kind of a tour of the painting, go through the players, point them out. Some of them they obviously recognize, and some of them they don't. And then I show them everything else that went into the print. We got Al Rosen, Ian Kinsler, Kevin Youkilis, Steve Stone, Sandy Koufax, Ryan Braun, Sean Green, Ron Blumberg, Steve Yeager, Mike Epstein, John Grabo, Jason Marquis, Brad Osmus. We got Hank Greenberg, I'll come back to him in a second. Ike Davis, Art Shamsky, Ruben Amaro, Adam Greenberg, Richie Scheinblum, Gabe Kapler, Norm Miller, Sam Full, Joel Horlin, Craig Breslow, Norm Sherry, Scott Feldman, and Ross Baumgarten. Hank Greenberg, a quick story on that. Originally, everybody on the field is obviously signing the print, and we didn't want to leave him out. He was going to be in the crowd because you couldn't have this painting without having Hank Greenberg in there. But after talking it over with Steve Stone and I think getting some input from Jerry Reinsdorf and also from Hank's son Steve, we decided it would be right to put him on the field even though he is not obviously signing the print. If you look at Ryan Braun, that's a totally different picture than you saw in the pencil sketch. When we turned the pencil sketch into an oil painting with that other version, it really just didn't do him justice. So we changed it around and made it better. Ron's a trooper, Ron Lewis, and he'll change it 5 times. If that's what we need, that's what we need. All right, let's take you to the crowd now, and I'll give you a little tour of the people in the crowd. You've got 4 former ball players in the crowd. You've got Sid Gordon up here, who played with the New York Giants. He played third base and outfield. He also played with the Boston Braves. He was a 2-time All-Star. He finished 4th in the 1948 MVP voting and was in the top 30 in the MVP voting 5 times. Mo Berg. Now, this is a famous Jewish player, not so much for his ball playing ability, but he was later known as being a spy during World War II, where he went to Tokyo on a baseball jaunt, but he took a bunch of photos out there that he eventually turned over to the government to help assist them in World War II. You got up here, you got Buddy Meyer. Now, Buddy Meyer, he played with the Washington Senators in the 1920s to the early 1940s. He was a 2-time All-Star, hit .303. He finished 4th in the MVP voting in 1935 to who else but Hank Greenberg. So there's a guy that some say, had a shot at being a Hall of Famer, .303 with over 2,000 hits. And finally, Lipman Pike right here. He's the first Jewish player ever to play, 1871, and maybe not so coincidentally, he's also the first ball player to ask for money to play the game. So he was the first paid player as well. If you go through the rest of the crowd, I'll point out some of the celebrities and some of the other people. When it got near the end, I tried to give the players an opportunity to get their parents in there or their grandparents or anybody that they wanted as long as I had room in the crowd. So Steve took advantage. We've got Steve Stone's dad in the crowd, Derek Hall. Here's Jerome Holtzman, a sports writer that's considered the pioneer in that he invented the save statistic. This is Sean Green's dad, Steve Yeager's father-in-law, Marvin Miller, Larry King, Rob Reiner, Theo Epstein. Here's Ian Kinsler's dad. Guy with the Brewer hat, you're guessing, is Ryan Braun's dad, and that's true. Charlie Steiner. We got Bud Selig, Billy Crystal. We got Craig Breslow's dad, Jerry Reinsdorf, Kevin Euclid's dad. There's Michael Weiner. My son Sam, my mom and dad, my daughters, Jamie and Charlie, my in-laws, and me and my wife when we looked better about 10 years ago. The first question people ask when they see this is,
who's the Yankee fan in the back?
Who's this guy in the crowd? That's Ron Lewis back there. The last piece, just to fill you in, the last piece of the puzzle, if you could zoom in on some of this stuff, there's a lot of little hidden things throughout the painting. For example, we've got a Jewish star etched in the dirt here. There's a chai in the bench. There's a Jewish star on the helmet hanging back there. Another one over here. There's a tallis hanging in the dugout. The players are playing in April and it's Passover and they get hungry. We got some matzah in the dugout for them. And you got a lineup card with an Israeli flag at the bottom. And the lineup is actually my take on the all-time Jewish greatest lineup ever. With Lou Boudreau leading off, Sean Green, Ryan Braun, Hank Greenberg, Al Rosen, Sid Gordon, Buddy Meyer, Harry Danning, and Sandy Koufax on the mound. That's a pretty tough team. The last couple things that's hard to see, we wanted to pay homage to the people that have won awards and also to the people that are not in the print represented elsewhere. So for awards, if you look at Ryan Braun's bat closely, it says on the bat, Ryan Braun, National League MVP 2011. And you look at Al Rosen's AL MVP 1953. Hank Greenberg's AL MVP 35 and 40. Steve Stone's glove says Cy Young, CY, 1980. And if you look at the baseballs that Sandy is holding, and this one says CY 66, CY 65, this one says CY 63, and this one, if you look at the seams, it says MVP 63. Lastly, you've got on every bat, you have Goody Rosen. You know, it's an old-time Jewish player that isn't represented elsewhere. You got Jimmy Reese on this bat. If you look at the seams of the balls, you got Cal Abrams, Erskine Meyer on the seams over here. So we tried to get in as much as possible into this print to really cover everything that there was to cover. In order to get the lithographs from canvas to the ultimate prints, we had to have them professionally photographed and put into computerized formats so that they can be printed onto two different surfaces. One is going to be a harder paper stock, card stock, and then the second is canvas. But one of the first things I did before the artist was even done and before it was professionally photographed, we had this printed up just for sizing to see what a 2-foot by 3-foot lithograph would look like. You could see it's not even done with the crowd portion of the print yet, but that was one of the earlier prints just to see about sizing. Then once we had it sized and we had it printed up, we had some test runs done on the actual cardstock. This is really thick cardstock, and that's what we ultimately went with. We didn't want it to be papery and that would fall apart. So this was done to test the cardstock and also test the color. Now once we had them all printed, next was markers. You know, what are we going to have to sign these amazing prints that are going to last a lifetime? So that's where we took one of them that was pre-done, and we had our little marker testing session, and you could see we tried different shades of gold, we tried to smear, we tried different shades of blue, because there's a gold series and there's also blue. And we tried some ultra thin ones and then some thicker ones, some Sharpie, some non-Sharpie. We did research on what would last the longest and never fade despite the lights. And that's ultimately what went into picking a perfect marker for both canvas and for the cardstock.
So how did you arrange to get all the players to sign?
So the plan was to fly everybody into Chicago. But I knew going in that, you know, Al Rosen in California, he said he's 88 years old, and he told us at his signing his radius is about a mile from his house. So he wasn't going anywhere. So I had to go to Rancho Mirage, California. Larry King, who was involved, he said I'd have to go to LA for him. And then there was Marvin Miller in New York, who, 95 years old, you know, obviously isn't flying. So I knew I had to go to New York. And the last piece was Sandy Koufax. I had to go to Florida to have him sign. So the plan about having everyone fly in, it wasn't going to work entirely. And then as long as I was going to these various places, I tried to line up as many people as possible. So I got the cases, I got the shipping company, I rented trucks. The logistics were kind of tough, depending on the situation. You know, we had a bunch of guys in one place. Sometimes we had one guy in another place. So we dealt with that. But I can say that after doing a few of these, we finally got it down to where we had a pretty good system where we got things done, and we got it done fast, and we got it done orderly. People want to know about the signings. They want to know how it all happened, and tell me a little bit about the players. So literally on September 13th at night is when I got the finished printed lithographs. Got them in my house, looked at them, and said, all right, this is great, we're going tomorrow. The first signing, September 14th, was in Milwaukee with Ike Davis. Julie was there, videographer extreme, Steve Eisen was there, Craig Schnero, the man who helped me with all the printing, was there, and Ike's agent. One thing that was consistent at all the signings was that we had a representative from Major League Baseball there to witness that every single print was signed by each individual player. At the very first signing, which was Ike Davis, we had Katie from Milwaukee, and she placed a Major League Baseball hologram sticker on each of the prints. And from that point forward, we had an authenticator at every other signing to make sure that the Major League Baseball hologram that was on the print was the print that was actually being signed. Steve Villalobos from our San Diego signing can walk you through how it works.
My name is Steve Villalobos. I'm with Major League Baseball Authentication, and we're here at Petco Park, where we have Mr. Norm Sherry, Mr. Brad Osmus signing all the prints. My job here is just to observe and make sure that every print actually gets signed. Each print has a separate sticker to show that it's an authentic signature. And then once we're done with the entire process, all these numbers get input into the computer and they get sent over to Major League Baseball so that later on, whenever someone has one of these prints, they can actually go on the Major League Baseball website and say that I have this number and all these signatures on these prints are all authentic.
We had 1,100 pounds of prints. We had no idea how to do this first signing. And we basically had the 5 of us or 4 of us running through this signing as fast as we could, making piles all over the place. The room was a complete mess. We were on a time constraint to pack it back up. But that was somewhat, I won't say a disaster, but that was a learning experience on the first one. We spent an extra 2 hours of cleaning up when he was done signing. Whereas now when we do a signing, when they're done signing, we're out of there in 15 minutes, boxed and ready to go. The one thing that went really smooth with the Ike Davis signing was that when he was ready to take his break, he pulled out a huge lox and bagel sandwich that he brought. That night, actually, we packed them up. I drove them to a shipping company. We shipped them out to Florida. We were shipping them to the west coast of Florida, Tampa, and we got lucky. We had Boston playing the Tampa Bay Rays. So Craig Breslow was on the Red Sox, and Sam Fuld was on the Rays. Richie Scheinblum lives in Tampa. Ross Baumgarten lives in Naples, a couple hours away. And Ron Blumberg lives in Atlanta. And he'll go anywhere because he loves this project. So we flew Ron in. We had 5 of them at once. We figured, this is great. Knock 5 guys out at once.
Well, this is the Ted Williams Hitters Hall of Fame. And one of the really exciting things that we have in here is our tribute to the Jewish players. And every one of them that's played in the major leagues is listed here. We were fortunate enough to have Ron Blumberg come and cut the ribbon along with Elliot Maddox for us a few years ago. And this remains one of the most popular of all of our displays here at the Ted Williams Museum.
So we were all set to go. We had the 5 of them, lined up at a table. Dave McCarthy at the Ted Williams Museum at Tropicana Field, not Rays Stadium, as I incorrectly said. He treated us like kings, and his whole staff there was unbelievable. Tony Pena, who runs the museum over there with Dave, great guys. Anyway, we figured this is great. We got a bunch of helpers. We got 5 guys lined up. We know what we're doing. Well, there's one problem, and this we learned. You got older retired guys signing versus younger current guys. You got Sam Fuld, 7 letters in that name. And then you got Richie Scheinblum with about 300 letters in his name, who writes every single letter out. So needless to say, Sam Fuld, and he was just waiting. He's just signing, and then he just waits. And then Richie's going at it. Richie will stop in the middle of his name. He'll yap over to Blumberg or Baumgarten, tell some story. So basically, Ike Davis took 2 hours and 45 minutes start to finish, and we were inexperienced. These 5 guys, after 2 hours, had only finished about 200 prints. And Sam Fuld and Craig Breslow had to go off to their game because they had a game that night. So we ended up finishing the session with Blumberg and Scheinblum and Baumgarten. We went that whole night till about 6 o'clock. It took about 7 hours to get those guys to finish it. So anyway, we get all them done, and then the next day, Sam Fuld and Craig Breslow came back, and they whipped out the remaining ones in about an hour and a half. That was the west coast of Florida. From there, Steve and I got in a truck, and we drove to the east coast, where coincidentally, Team Israel was trying to qualify for the World Baseball Classic. So we had Sean Green, we had Adam Greenberg, Gabe Kapler, and then Art Shamsky as the ambassador of the team. So we had 5 guys in one place again. This is a little special one. It's got the gloves, so after we can wipe down the prints and everything.
That's good.
Who do we got here? Tom Riley, head of security, Major League Baseball.
Well, I'm not head of security. I don't want to.
We're at the World Baseball Classic. We're about to do a signing with Sean Green, Adam Greenberg, Gabe Kapler, and Art Shamsky, and they just want to make sure that we really have these posters and not anything else in there. So here we go. We got the gloves, like I said, in case we want to wipe anybody out. Oh, the markers.
Official markers. Need the markers.
Official markers. So there you go. That was an experience. That was very hectic as well. They didn't have our room reserved for us, which we had reserved. They threw us in a room, gave us limited time. Gabe Kapler showed up early, wanted to get started. Adam Greenberg was late. It's tough when you got an assembly line and you're trying to work that. But we ended up getting about 90% of it done, except that a couple guys had to leave a little early. We got thrown out of the room because they needed that conference room for something else. We're packing it up in the truck. We had about 10% left to get from Gabe Kapler and Adam Greenberg, which we ended up doing in the hotel lobby bar. And it was quite a scene. They were laid out and people were stopping by and they were asking, where can I get one of these? From there, we drove up to Philly to see Ruben Amaro, GM of the Philadelphia Phillies. Our next stop was up to New York. Back in Tampa, some representatives of Major League Baseball came up to me and told me, with respect to Marvin Miller, that he was not going to do any signing. He could not. He was very ill and just wasn't going to happen, ever. Michael Weiner had a brain tumor and was going through some treatments once or twice a week. He was very weak. He was very sick. He liked the project. He loved it. He wanted to be a part of it. He just didn't know how he would feel on that particular day when I got there. I got a call from the people at MLB, and they said, okay, Michael Weiner is ready to go next day. And apparently Marvin Miller is taking a good turn, feels better, and is looking forward to it. So unbelievably, I drove to New York, driving my budget rental car down Fifth Avenue. Unbelievable traffic in New York. Tolls are ridiculous, but I got there. And Michael Weiner signed them, and he wasn't sure he could get through them all, and he wanted to keep going and said he felt great about it. So we're happy to have him in the print and signed. After Michael Weiner signed, I went directly to Marvin Miller's house with a couple people from the Players Association. And Marvin was 95, and we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours with Marvin. One of the greatest men I ever met. He was 100% with it mentally. Physically, he didn't look too bad to me. The stories he told in the 2 hours were priceless to me. And to have the chance to meet him was priceless. We're here with Marvin Miller. Just signed the prints. He's going to tell us about his father.
Yeah. My father was a very religious man. He was Orthodox. His whole life, he grew up on the east side.
Marvin, like I said, he was a great guy, and every single player told me, say hello to him. Kevin Youkilis, in fact, said he really didn't want to do this project unless Marvin Miller was a part of it. So that's how strongly the players felt about Marvin.
A lot of greats along the way that were not just great ball players, but great men. Marvin Miller, his passing and having him be able to sign it was really special and really cool.
As we know, by the time you're seeing this video, it was just last week that Marvin passed away. So I'm happy that I had a chance to see him and get to know him. I called him about 3 times after the signing, just to try to keep his spirits up and say hello. And I immediately sent him a print so that he'd have it in his house because he loved it and wanted one. So he did have it, and he hung it in his house for the last month or so that he lived.
I was actually just able to read Marvin Miller's bio this year for the first time. I mean, I knew we had the Marvin Miller Award because Mike Young, who was my teammate, my locker mate, has won it, I think, twice. And he was up for it again this year. So I finally was able to read the bio of Marvin Miller. And, I mean, the stuff that man accomplished is incredible. He lived a really good life, I know that.
After Marvin Miller, we shipped the prints home. I got Steve Stone to sign in Chicago. Then we went up to Milwaukee to see Ryan Braun after one of his games.
What's up? This is Ryan Braun, outfielder of Milwaukee Brewers. Proud Jewish baseball player. My father was born in Tel Aviv, Israel, lived there till he was 7 years old. Being Jewish is something that I've always been really proud of, and hopefully I can be an inspiration and a role model to young Jewish kids out there to believe that they can make it to the major leagues just like I have.
I'm proud to announce, and Ryan will be proud that I can say this, he actually did win the championship for the fastest signing in the entire group.
Evan's working the hardest.
There it is!
Make sure
Nice
that's
work, man.
too.
Way to go, man. Good job. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
My
Appreciate
thumb and index finger.
On
Time.
2 hours.
Get the time. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You got a new record holder. What's the
6:56.
official time?
It's, yeah,
This is Marissa.
6:55.
6:56?
Yes.
1 hour and 45.
1 hour 45. New
How many
record
signatures
holder.
were there?
After Ryan Braun, we hit Jason Marquis in Milwaukee also. New York Jewish Jason Marquis.
Growing up Jewish, played a big role in my life, not only in everyday life, but obviously athletics and baseball, even dating back to my bar mitzvah. We had a replica scoreboard made from when I pitched in Little League World Series, so as you can see, it still plays a big part and it helped me with my upbringing, and hopefully I can bring some inspiration and hope to young Jewish ball players around the world, and obviously show that anything's possible.
There it is, baby.
Fragrance?
Time? Get the time?
Hey, we started late.
What time we start?
I don't know.
What time you got? Official timekeeper.
Hour 50.
Hour 50. Ah. After Jason Marquis, we flew to Florida for Sandy Koufax, and that was one of the road trips that I felt like my son needs to go to meet Sandy Koufax and to help me. I needed workers anyway, might as well put him to work. So Sandy Koufax was as great a man as he was a pitcher. That's what I can say. He was very genuine, very nice, cordial, told stories, and that was priceless as well. Not to mention, he does that fantastic big signature right in the front of every print. The last one was as good as the first one, so happy that Sandy became a part of this. After Sandy, we shipped the prints right from Florida over to California. Larry King. Here I was going to Larry King's house in LA, Beverly Hills. Larry King was a great guy, and he took his time, and I would say everybody on this journey was a great guy. But he took his time, he signed them all. When he was done, we hung out in his house. He gave us a tour of his house. And Charlie Steiner signed there too.
My mom would be so proud. Here I am, my likeness is on the same picture as Sandy Koufax, Larry King, Bud Selig. I still don't know why they asked me to do this commercial.
After Larry King, we went to Dodger Stadium, got Steve Yeager and Norm Miller, two more guys that loved the project. Steve told a story about his father-in-law being a Holocaust survivor and having been branded with the number.
When you hear his story and you see how what kind of a man he was, I mean, he was strong. I mean, you talk about strong-minded men. Very strong, very fair, loved his family more than anything in the world, loved his family. And to hear his story, and his wish was that his daughter marry a nice Jewish boy. So I did, and I've got two sons from this marriage, and 34 is the number they ask for in sports. And if they can't get it, they always put something on their shoes or wristband, because that was the numbers that totaled up. 34 totaled up his numbers on his arm. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So that's lucky stuff for them. They always got it. They always got his numbers in their hats or shoes or whatever. So if they can't get 34.
Steve Yeager actually converted so that he could marry his wife, whose father always wanted him to marry a nice Jewish boy. After Steve Yeager in LA, then we drove down to San Diego, and Brad Osmus was there with Norm Sherry. All right, we're here with Norm Sherry. He just finished signing 18,000 of those prints.
Not quite 18,000. I
But a
thought it
lot.
was 17,999.
A lot.
A lot, yes.
So we want to know, what did you think of the print? How'd you like the project?
I thought it was very, very nice. It's nice to see all those faces on there. And the artist did a terrific job. I mean, they look good, and everybody in their uniforms looks sharp. And I think it's a terrific project. It really is. And a lot of people don't, I didn't know that half those guys were Jewish.
From there, we drove to Rancho Mirage, and we went to meet Al Rosen, one of my favorite signings. Just a fantastic guy, and he walked in, and he could not be more gracious and more proud of being included in this print. At some point, I give every player kind of a tour of the print. I show them, who's in the print and who's in the crowd, and etc. You want a tour of the print? You want to see the person? All right, come on over here. start you out with the canvas, so you can really...
Oh, that came out just that's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal.
We did just like you said. We made you look like Paul Newman.
Yeah. You got a long way to go and a lot of plastic surgery for that one.
No, it looks good. And when I was giving Al the print, I showed him Adam Greenberg, who was famous being the Cub that had the one pitch thrown and hit him in the head, and that was the rest of his career. So Al asked me about Adam, how's he doing? Can you tell him I say congratulations? Can you tell him hello for me? And I said, well, why don't you tell him? All right, here you go. I got Adam Greenberg on the phone. We're videoing, and we're also recording. I got someone here that wants to talk to you, specifically asked for you. Al Rosen. Al Rosen's here to talk to you.
Hey, Al, how are you?
Well, I'm better now talking to you. I saw your at bat the other night, and I was so thrilled for you I could hardly stand it. Your persistency is just unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate it. It's in my blood. It's in yours. It's in all of ours. You know what it took to get there, and we just love the game. So it's hard to give it up, and just keep fighting for what we've wanted since we were little kids.
Well, you certainly showed a great deal of mettle, and I'm very proud to have the opportunity to talk to you. I wish you nothing but the best. Well, good luck.
All right, Al, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can meet up at some point.
Well, hurry up, pal. I'm getting older. But good luck to you, and I'm sure you're going to make it all the way.
All right, I'm on my way back for sure. Thank you so
Great.
much for calling.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right.
When we were done with Al Rosen, we drove over to Scottsdale, and we knocked out Scott Feldman and John Grabo. I had a little conversation with Scott Feldman at the time. He was a free agent, and me being from Chicago, I said, you got to come to the Cubs. You got to come to the Cubs. And John Grabo, an ex-Cub, said the same thing. He said, everybody has to play in Wrigley Field at least once in their life. And sure enough, a week ago, Cubbies got him, Scott Feldman.
Scott Feldman, my dad is Jewish, and basically think this is something that he'd really appreciate, and it's cool for me to be a part of it. Maybe give it to my dad and have it hanging on his wall or something like that. It's just cool to be on here with some of these great ball players of past generations.
John Grabo, my mom's Jewish. Glad to be part of this project. Kind of got to see it start, from the start, the rough pencil sketch, and kind of seen it come to fruition now, and it's pretty cool. So I'm just happy to be part of it.
Then after Scott Feldman, we went to Derek Hall. When we were done with Derek Hall, we got to Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago. If you got 10 seconds and you want to say anything about the print or about anything at all, we're going to do a making of the DVD, and now's your chance. You can hate it if you want.
No, I don't hate it. It's a remarkable project, and it kind of needed to be done, so I'm glad you did it.
Shortly after that, we flew in Mike Epstein and Joel Horland. This was great because these guys had not seen each other in such a long time, and they were actually teammates on the 1972 World Series with the Oakland A's. And to see their faces and expressions when they met in that room was really an amazing thing to see.
This is an awesome undertaking by all you people. And for me, it's an honor to be included with all these other great Jewish baseball players. And I hope that these things bring a lot of enjoyment to the people that purchase.
After Mike Epstein and Joe Horland, we flew in Ian Kinsler. I'm going to give Ian Kinsler the Mensch Award of this project. Ian's from Dallas. Season was over. He's got 2 young children. He really did not want to fly to Chicago on his off season to do this signing. Ian finally said, okay, I'll do it. He booked his flight. He made a little 3-day weekend with his wife. And of course, I need to cover the expenses, and I need to cover the hotel and the air and everything like that. And Ian just wouldn't have any part of that. He said, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm coming in. I'm going to sign these, and don't worry about it. So I give him the Mensch Award. Great guy. I enjoyed talking with Ian and hearing some of his stories as well. The next person we had on tap is perhaps the most important person in baseball, Commissioner Bud Selig.
Here I am, I'm signing my own picture.
How do you like that?
Look. Oh, yeah.
It's not too bad.
Oh, they're also not too bad. Look, all these guys have signed it. This is beautiful.
How great is it to have this project sealed with that seal of approval from the commissioner himself? I'm very proud and happy to have Bud Selig be a part of this project, and seeing his offices and watching his reaction as well as the other players' reaction to the print, is just amazing. Next we had Theo Epstein, and with me being a lifelong Cub fan, I thought it was necessary to take the time during this signing of the litho to try to convince him to trade for Ryan Braun, Miguel Cabrera, Justin Verlander, and a few others.
It's great to be associated with this project. Anything Sandy Koufax does is good enough for me too, and make my dad really happy. So it's nice to see this collection of Jewish baseball talent on one beautiful print. Good luck.
Next, we flew out to LA to see Meathead, also known as Rob Reiner. Rob was as funny there as he is on TV and in the movies.
Hey, what's this? Charlie. Is that Charlie's sign mine?
Charlie Steiner.
All right, I'll have to sign Charlie's. Should I put an arrow? No. All right, I'm going to sign Charlie's. This is the last one. All right, move it. Here we go. Watch, here I go, the last one. And there we go. Now we're done.
And the last person that we needed to complete this historic project was Kevin Youkilis.
It's a great print here. Excited just to share a great print and great autographs with a lot of Jewish ball players along the way. It's very cool. My father's in this. I know he'll greatly appreciate it, and a lot of greats along the way that were not just great ball players but great men. Marvin Miller, his passing and having him be able to sign it was really special and really cool. And Sandy Koufax, fellow Bearcat and fellow Jewish ball player. So. Very special, and hopefully we can keep this legacy going on of great Jewish ball players down the road.
So looking back on the project up to this point, what did you think of the journey in general?
Thinking back on this journey, a guy like me, just a regular guy who loves baseball and had this in his heart to be able to do this kind of project, starting with going back to Tampa with Dave McCarthy, takes care of us like we're royalty. Puts us up in a room, to have the signing. He gives us, I got my ticket stub here, 4th row tickets to go see the Rays game that night, come back the next day, we're on the field. Looking at the Stingrays. We have a private tour of the museum. Then we go over to East Coast and we're in the skybox for the World Baseball Classic to see Team Israel hopefully make their bid for the World Baseball Classic. Drive up to Philly and Ruben Amaro's people give me a ticket to the game. I'm sitting in the scout seats for the Phillies game, and what happens? Ryan Howard hits his 300th career home run the day I'm there. Going to Marvin Miller's home, meeting this man only 2 months before he passes. Unbelievable. Trying to fly out of JFK Airport and getting stuck for 2 hours because Air Force One is in with Obama. Meeting Ryan Braun, going to Sandy Koufax, having my son meet Sandy Koufax. I mean, that's something that, it's priceless. Getting a personal tour of Larry King's home from him. It would have been enough for me, as they say, but even, meeting with Steve Yeager and Norm Miller and hearing Steve Yeager's story about, his father-in-law being a Holocaust survivor. Derek Hall, president and CEO of the Diamondbacks, possibly the next commissioner of baseball, who knows. The dinner with Joe Horland and Mike Epstein. And then finishing it up with Bud Selig. You can't beat that. As of now, this has been an amazing, amazing journey.
After this 2 or 3 year journey, tell us what you've got as far as the actual lithographs.
Well, basically what we did is we've got 500 of these lithographs. There's 5 series of 100 lithographs each, and each series is a little bit different. So you've got the first series, which has all the players signing. You've got the second series, which has the players signing, plus it has them signing with an inscription. So Sandy Koufax says Hall of Fame 72. Ryan Braun says MVP 2011. Everybody has an inscription. The third series we did on canvas, when they're slightly bigger and they're on canvas and all the players have signed it. Those look beautiful. The fourth series is not only the players signed, but also all the guys in the crowd. Larry King, Theo Epstein, Bud Selig, Marvin Miller, Jerry Reinsdorf, Rob Reiner. So that's the fourth series. The fifth series, which to me is really unique and my favorite, and I brought a little sample, we call it the Greatest Moments series. What it is they're numbered 1 through 100. Every number relates to a greatest moment in Jewish baseball history. And with that, the artist will sign every one. For example, number 8, Ron Lewis will sign it, number 8 of 100, Ryan Braun Tribute. And that is the only one that's ever going to say Ryan Braun Tribute. It's one of a kind just for that. Besides the actual print, what you'll get is a certificate that goes along with it, which says Ryan Braun Tribute. And it's number 8. And it'll tell a little bit about Ryan Braun and his career and his MVP and home run title, etc. And then Ryan Braun will actually sign the certificate as well. So in addition to the print, you get the signed certificate by the person that's featured in there. And I brought a few of these just to kind of show you real quick. We've got one devoted to Al Rosen for his 1953 MVP. We've got one devoted to Richie Scheinblum, number 55. The story behind that is that when Richie played in Japan, he realized that phonetically in Japanese, the way you say number 55, it sounds like Goju Go. So he wanted to be number 55 on his uniform number, and they wouldn't give it to him. But that's why he's certificate number 55. And there's his signature with every single letter in Richie Scheinblum. This is number 1. I brought it out to show you. Number 1 was Adam Greenberg's number of pitches that he had seen in the big leagues. When he signed this, he only had seen 1 pitch, but since then had that second at bat. It's also Ron Blomberg because he was the first designated hitter. And some of the certificates are signed by multiple people. Number 30, the 30-30 Club members, Sean Green, Ian Kinsler, Ryan Braun. Then we have some like Hank Greenberg Tribute, and it was number 5 because he wore number 5. And obviously, you know, he can't sign it being deceased. But what we did is we paired him up with someone who we wanted to sign it that had something similar. So Ian Kinsler signed all of Hank Greenberg's certificates because he also wore number 5. Obviously, number 32 is the Sandy Koufax Tribute. Number 63 is about his incredible year, and Sandy signed all the certificates as well. Number 17, that was Marvin Miller, was born in 1917, so we've got certificates featuring him. And 84, that was the year he retired. And then, of course, we've got when Bud Selig was named commissioner in 1992, and he signed the certificates as well. So to me, that series, it's just great because they're each unique and they're each, you know, well thought out, and you can have one of a kind, truly one of a kind.
Is there a charity aspect to the project?
We did this project with a couple things in mind. You know, I wanted to do it because it was something that I thought was a great idea to get done in the window, but we also did it to raise a lot of money to charity. We've already given $70,000 to various charities. Make-A-Wish Foundation was your charity.
Yes.
What's the reason that you chose them?
Well, you know, you see all those kids on television and they show them. It gets me, boy.
So as the prints are sold, each of their charities are going to benefit from the sales. And we also have a program in place right now for anyone watching this or anyone who might hear about us. If you have a legitimate charity and have a mailing list of people who may be interested in purchasing a lithograph, your charity will get $500 from every lithograph sold.
Is there anything you've learned from the project?
The thing that I've learned most in this project is that if you have a vision and you have sort of a dream to do something and you're willing to go at it and your heart's in it like ours was, you have a great journey, and in the end you have something to show for it that hopefully will, you know, last forever. In saying that, I guess it's time to thank the people. You know, most importantly, my wife Julie, who's put up with me for a couple years working on this project. We're finally at the end. My family, who's heard about it every single day, every time I came home and I'd say, you know, Norm Sherry's in, or Mike Epstein's in. I get all excited because I get another player in, You know, they had to listen to it all. So I definitely thank them. Steve Stone, you know, without you, I don't know if this would have gotten done. You handled some key elements in this project, and you really helped me out, and just having your name behind it helped. I got Steve Eisen on video, who traveled with me to Florida, to California, all over the place. Craig Schnarro helped me with all my printing. I didn't know anything about printing. I've become an expert now. A couple of the players I want to thank. You know, Richie Scheinblum, giving me leads on other players, helping my credibility. Ron Blumberg, he, like I said, called me twice a day, and he's like, come on, let's get Shamsky. Let's get him on the phone, big guy. Come on, let's go. The key players, I want to think about the MVPs. Ryan Braun and Nez, you guys were one of the first ones, and you started that domino effect, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to see that, from what I'm hearing, you know, you guys are happy with the project. Al Rosen, guy who, you know, didn't really want to be a part of it at first, just because he didn't really see what it was at first. Pleasure to have you on board, and thanks for what you did for this project and what you did for baseball. Lastly, and not least, Sandy Koufax. We wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't truly believe in this project and want to be a participant in it. So Sandy and Harlan, who's my new best friend from 3,000 miles away in California, thanks to both of you guys. After thanking all of them, I hope that everybody truly enjoys the ultimate lithograph that came out of this work, that I think is really a part of history and is going to last many lifetimes.
I'm going to put a mustache on him.
There's my wife calling. She knew it was 3-hour signing. That's it. Good job, guys.
Nice going.
How's that hand
This is it.
This is the one we've been waiting for all day long.
All
Let's
day.
just sit back.
That's it.
Ah, screw it. Let's get it over with.
There it is.
Nicely done, my man.
Thrilled to do it with
We got it. We got it.
Thanks, guys.
Bet you. Anytime.
Appreciate it. There it is, baby.
I felt worse. I'm nice and loose now. It's part of my wrist rehab.
You don't even have to warm up?
Yeah. Is that it?
All right, there it is. It's a wrap. Call on the last one right here.
Finally done.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
One more.
I'm not going to do this.
I want $10,000 for the last signature.
There you go.
All right, good job, guys.
That was fun. What's that? I usually get booze.
That's applause. Thank you so much. Good job.
Enjoy
Good job. All right, here we go. Last one or two. This is the finale. We got set.
All done.
That's it.
Nice.
Good job, man.
Accomplished.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ron Lewis on his
40 over 40.
Yeah, beautiful. All right.
That's what you're supposed to do?
That's it.
Was that it?
All right, here we go. The last one. It's official. Larry King has filled his obligation like being a bar mitzvah boy all over again. Charlie Steiner, done.
I don't have a fountain pen, I have a Sharpie.
Today I have a fountain.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much.
Last one.
There it is. Good job, guys.
All right, here we go.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
That's it.
Perfect.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Here's
Appreciate
your pen
it.
back. I like the sleeves on it.
That's game worn by Sandy Koufax.
This is the last one. All right, move it. Here we go. Watch, here I go. The last one. And there we go. And then we're done.
There it is. The finale. Theo Epstein. That's it.
Nice.
Good job.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Kevin Euclid's here doing a great job. He is actually the last signer that we have, so the print is now complete, ready to go. And thanks a lot for participating and coming in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Hope you enjoy the print.
Yeah, it's a great print.
How about a Hebrew hammer on the last one for the finale? There it is. There it is.
That's it?
That's it. I think that's
You
it.
want the Hebrew
Oh,
one?
you want the last one? There you go.
I thought there was no.
All right.
That's where you got it.
There it is. Thank you very much, Al Rosen.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks for being a part of it.
Appreciate all your help.
You're a part of history now. You were anyway, but now you're a bigger part. We appreciate it. Way to go, man. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.